Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Oh, the magician. Sits it by far. The magician. Because magic is magic. Magic is beautiful. And if you're doing magic and you're doing it right, you're going to have the audience at the palm of your hands. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything but what you're doing on stage.
Welcome to the Comedians and Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Lloyd Shellenberger. Lloyd, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. I am Lloyd Shellenberger. I am a writer, producer, author, and podcaster, and part-time comedian. And unlike you, which you're a full-time comedian, because I know who you are. So I'm trying to grow up and be just like you when I grow up.
There it is. So, you ready to get into it, Lloyd?
I'm ready to get into it. Let's get into it, buddy.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comments section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me.
Now, I don't know if that's wise. I'm 43 years military. Even though I'm old, I might put up a pretty good fight.
All right. I'm only 5 years, but 2 deployments. So we'll see. We'll see who comes out on top.
Well, thank you for your service, sir.
As well.
You probably got it over me at this stage of my life.
Well, we'll see. I keep the running up, but let's get in the elevator. So The whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So Lloyd, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
Oh, absolutely. And that happens on every show you do, which, by the way, you should do all the stand-up shows and everything that they offer you along the way so that you can actually evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And you go from a comic to comedian, and a lot of that is timing, writing material, understanding how to deliver it. It's just, I'm finding out that comedy is not easy. Not easy.
It's a challenge, and it's worth it, right?
I'd rather have dentistry work done without Novocaine sometimes.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
But it's very humbling at times, and I will tell you that.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, ready for the first question?
Sure.
All right, so it's about the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
I would say, depending on whether you can do voice or not. Not everybody can do voices. I happen to be an voiceover artist, so I can do a ton of voices, and it's huge. If you can't, don't rely on that. Find other ways, visuals, things like that. That's what I was.
So does authenticity matter, or is illusion part of the magic?
Oh, it does matter. I remember reading something long before I got into comedy, which said that comedy has always got a bit of truth into it, and that's what people recognize about it. Authenticity is huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I talk about military.
So punching up versus punching down. So where do comics versus comedians stand on this? So let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
I'm going to say yes, and boy, was it a misnomer, because court jesters were by law licensed and could say anything they want. So yes, it was probably the case, and boy, did he screw up. And by punching up and punching down, sometimes if you totally screw up, you can save yourself by doing that. Sometimes you can't. Depends on the audience. Every audience is different. I'm finding that out.
Absolutely. So is the audience agreement with the comedian a form of permission or alignment?
Sometimes. But Sometimes, I'm a big fan of George Carlin. George Carlin said a lot of unpopular things during his time, but he found a way to say them in such a way that the presentation and the persona, it didn't matter what he was saying. Um, you know, he was a leftist liberal long before there were leftist liberals, and he made it fashionable. He did. He actually made it fashionable. When you listen to George Carlin, if you're a conservative, there's probably not much he's going to say that you're going to agree with, but you're going to laugh the whole time, and you're going to think it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. So, cultural translation of comedy. How do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
Oh, okay. Having been in Iraq and all these foreign countries, I can honestly tell you that criticizing your leadership in Iraq, not good. Don't do it. Um, you could be on the wrong end of the jail time there, or you could be on the wrong end of a rope. But if you do it in America, it works wonderfully.
I'll,
Criticizing every politician is up for criticism, every one of them.
I'll go with that one. So, is truth the meaning of facts?
No, absolutely not. Facts are completely different from truth because everybody has their own personal truth. And it's not for you as a comedian to find it because there's too many of them. If you have 5,000 people in a room, there's 5,000 truths. There's only one fact. That's all. That's all there ever will be for anybody around the world. For 6 billion people, there's only one fact. If a man walks up and shoots another guy, he's committed murder. That's a fact. All right. The truth might be that maybe the guy in the corner says he deserved it, and it wasn't murder. It was self-defense. So therefore, his truth is different from that fact.
You said 6 billion people on Earth. Is that a fact?
Probably an estimate, and probably not. Probably a
Gotcha.
truth.
Gotcha on that number.
Yes, you did.
That
Uh,
might be your truth.
that might be my truth, and it might not be accurate. It might not be
So,
accurate.
right. So, are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
No, I tend to think that both of them can fill a role in any society. I think they're all great. You get a comedian in some place and get him going, he's going to hit all pistons and he's going to hit every little aspect of your culture and your life. There's a guy named Schmidt that I love watching, and he works the audience.
Hmm.
I think he's actually Hispanic. I don't think he's white, even though his name may say that he's white. I think he's Hispanic. But boy, does he hit on everything cultural.
Hmm.
And he does the audience working. He works the audience. And I'm going to tell you, that's something I'm staying away from because that takes some serious chops.
Hmm.
You better know what you're doing when you go into the audience. And he does it. And he does it well. And he does it culturally. And he'll be bringing up things that really I avoid. I'm married to a Hispanic and I'm an ex-rabbi and I got a black partner. But I avoid the references on African Americans, blacks, and on culture for the most part because I realize unless you're good enough to pull that off, stay away from it.
But how are you going to get good at it if you don't do it?
Well, you can do it at home. Work on it at
Oh,
home. You're supposed to be working on your routines at home anyway. So, if you're going to go home and work on something, work on that. And then get your wife and your children who aren't going to slap you and hang you or run you over in an alleyway afterwards. You
mhm.
know, there was an old politician years ago that you probably wouldn't remember because you're too young. I'd love it
Mm.
when somebody says that to you. Oh, she'd say that. But they used to say he used to have this saying. His name was Ross Perot, and
Mm.
he used to do these debates, and he used to come out with open phrase where somebody he disagreed with, he'd go, "Well, here's the thing, you people, try you people in South Central, see what happens."
Yeah.
You aren't getting out of that club alive. So culturally, you better be aware of where you're at because I won't try that unless I got the car warmed up in the alleyway and ready to go. Okay, ain't gonna
Now, I do recall Ross Perot, so I've been around since then, and so he definitely was a character. He definitely got into the mix. So, crowd work versus crafted work. If comics riff like influencers in the comments section, and comedians perform like in reaction videos, where's the sweet spot?
Oh, wow. Boy, that's a tough question. You got some really tough questions, man. Do you give
Yep.
everybody these questions?
I do actually, yeah. It's in the description of the video.
I think the sweet spot is sort of in between, but it could change. You know, the audience is going to give you exactly what you deserve.
Mm,
Okay, if you come in and frankly you suck, they're going to let you know. What they're going to do is just sit on their hands and go.
mm, yeah.
At that point, you need to read the room and go, okay, a different tact is what's in order here, and maybe I need to go to my material that I've written down and try that tonight because the other material that I've worked on isn't working.
That's for sure. You got to do the old switch up. So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work?
Um, as long as you're keeping it funny. The bottom line is always is a comic or a comedian, are they funny? If they're funny, you can do it all day long. Robin Williams used to lean into both. I mean, that
Hmm.
guy was he's another one of my heroes. I watched him and I could watch him all day long and just watch him go from doing voices to improv to working with the audience. And his mind worked on a level that I have not seen many comedians do. And he could switch back and forth effortlessly.
So what about when a comedian gets heckled?
Well, I got some good advice from that. I don't know if you know Stephen Kimbrough, but he's a friend of mine. And he said to me, and I said to him early on when I started getting this, what do I do when I get heckled? He says, first of all, you want the audience to like you. So don't go out there and try to destroy that person. In other words, if you got an old woman sitting in
Mm,
an audience heckling you, don't sit there and call her an old woman
hmm.
or old lady and tell her to shut up. You get disrespectful like that, you lost the audience. But you got to find a way to take what they say and turn it around in a funny way, and back at them. Now, at some point, if you have a heckler that just will not let you off the hook, and I've never had that, but I'm going to have to figure out what to do when that happens. I've never
Yeah.
had it.
You might get combative at that point. I think everyone will understand. You got the talking stick, right?
I guess I'm
Ah.
6'2" and still can handle myself. But I also have a little bit of moniker of reality here. It's not going to help me walking into the audience and getting into it with a guy. It's not
Sounds
going.
like you're doing stand up at some shady places.
I have been doing some shady places, yes.
Ah.
And I just kind of park my car and tell my drivers to keep the car running. So no matter what happens, if you see me yelling on the way out the door, start the car. Let's go. We're headed out. We're done. I'm leaving my equipment behind. I don't need it that bad.
Jeez, I think you need a self-driving car to get it ready. Jump in while it's moving. All right. Advertising and self-promotion. So who advertises themselves more? The comic, the comedian, or the magician? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
Oh wow! You know, I'm not familiar with magicians, but I do know comics need to do self-advertising. Yeah, and the comedian, absolutely. That's huge. I don't know about the magician because I've never done magician work, and my level of making things disappear is a good meal on the table. So beyond that, I have no idea. I would say the comedian has to. The comic
Okay.
is a manufactured thing. The comedian is in reality something that's facing the crowd. He's right there, and he has to promote, and he's got to get these people to do something when they go home.
Okay, when they go home. So is self-promotion seen as selling out or is it necessary for survival?
Oh, I think it's seen as necessary for survival. Look, I'm an author. I think I told you that. I got books and I got stuff out. And I was originally had a deal, 6 book deal with Penguin. And the first thing they said to me, "What's your social media footprint?" And what's that?
Yeah.
What the hell's a social media footprint? That sounds like something I shouldn't be doing on a Saturday night, in my opinion. But I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I may not have one if I'm having to ask what it is. And they go, yeah, you don't have one. We looked it up. Then why'd you ask? Because
Yeah.
we wanted to know. Because as an author, you also have to promote yourself. Promotion is self-promotion, which, by the way, has changed over the past 30 years. It involves social media, involves all kinds of things that 20 years ago we didn't even hear of. It's changed. It's
That's right.
crazy.
That's why we're here. So, censorship and offense. So, does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
I think a little bit of self censorship is not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I was at a show in which a comedian talked about. I think it was part of his routine was talking about an annoying kid and what he was going to do to the annoying kid.
Hmm.
Now, keep in mind, I am a parent and I raise two children. At no point do I ever think children are perfect or they're angels. They're not. They're far from it. I think they're the devil's spawn sometimes. Okay.
Right.
But they're children. So the best thing you can do is not bring up the fact that if you killed your child out of anger and then decided to turn it into a joke, I don't know if that's a good idea. And censorship would have been a really good idea.
Yeah. Well, self censorship at least, right? So, who
Yeah.
survives better in a cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician,
Beady,
or
beady,
the
beady, beady.
mudslinger?
Oh, the magician. Sits it by far. The magician. Because magic is magic. Magic is beautiful. And if you're doing magic and you're doing it right, you're going to have the audience at the palm of your hands. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything but what you're doing on stage. Comedians have to adjust throughout the entire show. Comics have to adjust the way they approach things. The mudslinger never survives. Never. I know there's people out there that do that, but Don Rickles and was one of them. He was the best there ever was at it. But maybe those days may be gone. I don't know.
All right. So, timing and delivery, science or art? Do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on rhythm and emotion?
I think it is art. I believe it is art. Although you can develop it, because there's a formula for developing your laughs and setting them up and all this other stuff, which you as a comic should know that. But you as a comedian, once again, live, you have to be able to adjust your timing, and that takes years of work.
Mm-hmm.
That takes years of work to get good at that. I've seen people that are good comedians. I went to see Julio Iglesias. I think it was Julio. I think yeah, his first name's Julio. He's call him Fluffy. Call me
Mm-hmm.
Fluffy. His timing is impeccable, unbelievable. He catches things and he'll throw something out and he'll do a. Then he'll throw something right out afterwards. Perfect timing that just nails it.
Hmm.
He is amazing. Whereas Robin Williams, who is most of the time I probably suspect coked up, just went on 100-mile-an-hour rant and found, and most of his rants are absolutely hilarious. But he was on a 100-mile rant. He never slowed down. His timing was completely different. Every comedian's time and comic's time is different. Every one of them. I've never seen one that's the same.
Yeah, no, that's true for sure. So, laughter versus applause. So, are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks, or a primetime Emmy that validates the message?
I would tend to think that comedians and comics are realists. If you're a race car driver starting out or you've been at it for a while, you don't look at the Indianapolis 500 as you will win that, and that's everything that you're going to do is all about that because you got a journey in between. But comics and comedians, they're chasing laughs. That's your meter. I mean, I remember the first time I stepped on stage, I actually had a more successful time than I've ever had since, and I literally had laughs, and I walked off, and I don't think I touched the ground for two weeks after that. And I've been chasing that ever since. Comedians are the same way. I think we look for the laughs. That's what we're looking for. The other stuff was going to come if you get the laughs. If you can't get a laugh and you keep bombing on your shows, essentially somebody's going to say, son, you've done your best. Maybe we need to do something else.
Oh man, that's what. Oh
That's
no, not the hook, not the friendly
the hook.
hook.
Hey, I got
Right?
the hook as a boxer. I had my coach come out one day after I'd been boxing for a year and getting the crap beat out of me. He finally looked at me and said, and I was a heavyweight boxer. I was fighting all these big boys. He finally looked at me and says, I want to save your life today. And I go, how? And I was on the U.S. Army boxing team. And I said, how? He says, I'm pulling you from the boxing team before you end up with brain damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's different than stand up, right? There, the more you hurt, the better you get, right?
No, yeah. The more you hurt, the better you get. But in boxing, at some point, somebody needs to look at you and say, you will not be the first Jewish heavyweight boxing champion of the world. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And now in another universe, maybe, but not in this one.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Comedy is commentary. So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
Well, I can honestly tell you, preaching is a state that you get into that I really don't. I don't like to preach because people don't listen to preaching. They don't. Yeah, I don't care how funny you make it. If you make it funny, they'll laugh, but they'll never remember a word you say when you preach. Mm-hmm. The other thing is commentaries. Commentaries are great. Jay Leno used to do a great number of commentaries. He was really good at it, but he never preached. He always just throw that out there and let you figure it out on your own. And he never preached to you. I work with a comedian all the time, and I'm not going to say who he is, but he preaches about the evils of, and I'm not a Republican, but he preaches about the evils of the Republican Party and all that stuff. And whether I'm a Democrat or Republican, I'm not going to preach about the evils of either party, because I don't think that's not going to win me an audience. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear that. And I watch him when he does these shows. He'll sit down and he'll preach about, whether it's just Trump at this particular stage. It doesn't mean anything beyond that. And I understand that. He's either your cup of tea or he isn't, and that's your right, and you should absolutely have that right. But when you preach at an audience for 10 minutes about evil orange man, the comedy routine went out the door. It became preaching and commentary. Right. And last time I remembered, we were hired to make people laugh and make them forget about the crappy life and the crappy political situation we're in.
Right. Yeah, that's that. We can't. Who would disagree with that? They were here to laugh. So, the elevator doors have now opened onto the multiverse. Are you ready to step out into the unknown?
Oh Lord! These questions are going to get harder.
Yes.
You're a very intellectual comedian. I can see that. You are very intellectual.
All right, so we're stepping out. So, board game Zoomcast, play versus performance. If comedy were a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
I would have to say the Foley artist. That's where I feel most comfortable.
Okay.
Painting things through visuals and audios, and through. And the other stuff, I'm still working on that. So, frankly, okay. I can't say that I'm very good at it, but that's good. That's what I do.
All right. So does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
I would say painted vividly. Yes, absolutely. If you can put it right out there for the average audience member to see, they're either going to love it or they're going to hate it. You're either going to do well that night or you're going to bomb. But at least it's fearless. You look like a kind of guy that would be fearless.
That's the goal. It got to be like a lion, right?
Yes, you used to look like you would be a lion on the stage.
That's the goal. That's my attempt, at least when I come down from space. All right, So we've got a tradition here on the Comedians and Elevators podcast where the previous guest asks a question for the next guest. And the previous guest was DeAndre Noir, and his question for you, Lloyd, is: what message has a specific comic conveyed that has a cultural impact?
Wow, Stephen Kimbrough, and he basically said to me, at no point when you do your shows, are politics, religion, any of that personal, and if you can find a ways to avoid that, probably find ways to do it. And I kind of live by that. I stay away from those. So that would be where I really paid attention to him and the heckler. Don't destroy the heckler, but put them in their place.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Be respectful of the heckler. That's right. Let's all be respectful of the heckler, people. Let
To a
him.
certain
That's the next way I'm going to handle the heckler. Let's be respectful of the heckler. They all have their place.
Until I've had enough, and I go, you know what? I am 6'2" and mean for a reason. And you're about to find out.
Yeah, there you go. There you
go.
All right. So last question, legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics' tight five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Wow. Being a big George Carlin fan, I think you know which one I'm going to pick. Yeah.
Yes.
Timeless.
Yeah.
Timeless. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he still says things today that he's been dead for 20 years, and you still go, he was right on. He was so right on.
I agree with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lloyd, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me at the Military Historian Pod at youtube.com. You can also find me on PNN Academy. So, and you'll also find me very shortly coming up as Sergeant Happy on the Military Historian and the PNN Academy website. And I'm changing my act up. So if I get comments on the act about you started out angry, mean, and nasty, and you're changing, yeah, I am. I'm trying to be more
Teddy bear?
Yeah, I'm trying to be just frustrated, not angry.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
frustrated is funny. Angry is not.
Well, it works for some people, but sometimes it gets scary. That's for sure.
Sometimes it gets scary. Yeah, and I'm not out there to scare people.
Yeah.
And that's true. And I'm sure you're going to ask me the next one, which is what is the one question for the next comedian, correct?
I am. I typically ask it after, but if you want everyone to know what it is, let's.
We'll ask it after. You remind me.
All right. All right, Lloyd. Well, Lloyd, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everyone else, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you very much. And the one question you wanted?
Oh, are we gonna have it recorded?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. So what will be your question for the next guest?
Does your act continually evolve at all points as you're doing it, or does it at some point reach exactly where you want it to be, and you never have to evolve the act any further? And your character and your persona on stage, does that continually evolve with the act?
Wow. So let me just read back as far as I got. So does your act continually evolve as you are doing it, or does it?
Does your persona evolve with the character and everything you present on stage? Does that eventually evolve, or do you finally think you're good enough at where you're at?
Got it. All right. All right, Lloyd, that's the first time they know what's coming. And so everyone, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you, sir.